Hi guys, we're gonna get started soon. Let me know if you can hear me, if everything's clear. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me and if everything's clear so that we're good to go. I don't want to start. Perfect. Thank you. Is this clear? Are we good with this? I know there's kind of a shadow. I think it's just the way that see if I can move it more this way, maybe out of the shadow a little bit. Too far. Shadow it is. All right. Okay. So tomorrow's exam is on triangles. Triangles are not going to go away. Your following exam is going to be on triangles also. So this is just the start of triangles for you guys. All right, so when it says to classify, you're going to get classify or identify. What it's asking you for is to tell us what type of triangles they are. So you have different choices, and you have choices by sides and choices by angles. So choices can be scalene, equilateral, isosceles. You can have acute, obtuse, right. So one's by angles, one by sides. This guy right here, this angle's 40, right? Which means my other two angles are going to be the same. We know that it's this part right here. That means that those two sides are congruent. And when two sides are congruent, you're going to have an isosceles triangle. So we did it by sides. This one's going to be isosceles. And then it's also going to be acute because all of these angles are going to be under 90 degrees. Okay, how do I know that? This one's 40. These two have to be the same. I know that all of my degrees have to add up to be 180. So 180 minus 40 is 140. And then I'm going to divide that in two because I have two angles here. So this one's going to be 70 and 70. So I know this is going to be isosceles and acute. This guy right here, I can tell by my angles that all three sides are different. Let me zoom in. Let's see where the zoom is. There we go. Let's try there. How's that? This way. Better? All right. So this guy right here, every angle is different, which means every side is going to be different. So this guy is going to be scalene, where all the sides are different. It's also going to be acute because every angle is under 90 degrees. So this one is acute. All right. For this one right here, this guy right here, right? So to answer your question, you don't have to do this. It didn't ask for it. But when you need to classify by angle and by side, you could see that these are all going to be acute angles. You didn't have to do the math. I just wanted to show you how I got that, how I absolutely know for sure that these are acute angles. So this guy right here is right. This little thing right here tells me that it's right. These angles right here tell me that this side and this side are the same. They are congruent. So we are going to get a right isosceles. This guy right here, doesn't matter what it looks like. It's definitely going to be what's given. So this guy right here, he's equilateral because all the sides are the same. There are two things. I mean, if you were to put acute, absolutely, because equilateral means that all the angles are the same. They are definitely all acute. The other thing this would be called is equiangular. So all the angles are equal. On your test, it's going to be a circle the best answers or pick which ones and circle them. So that's how this one's going to work here. This guy right here, the only thing we know is that it's a right triangle. There's no markings to show that anything's equal. So this guy right here has to be a right scalene. So that's what it means when you classify or identify triangles. All right, naming congruent parts. For this one's the basic one. Everything's matched up. So you need to make sure you match up things. So when we label this for naming congruent parts, we're going to name congruent angles and congruent sides. So if you look at this, I'm going to say that angle E is congruent to angle S. Do you guys see that they each have one marking? So I know that these are the same. Okay, to answer your question, I'll go back to the third one after, and everything inside the triangle needs to equal 180. So we're talking about inside a triangle. All right, congruent here. This has nothing to do with numbers. This is just matching up which ones go with what. So angle D has the 2 lines. It's congruent to angle R. Angle F is congruent to angle T. So if you have to ask, if it asks which parts are equal, you can go by markings. If I needed to do sides, side RS is congruent to side ED. Okay, side TS is congruent to side FE. And then side, I can switch it up. I can go FD. FD is congruent to TR. Right, so you're just matching them up. What's important is when you have to label these, that you label them in the same order. So I'm going to say that triangle EDF, EDF is congruent. I need to be careful in how I label it. Remember, this one has 1 line. I'm going to label it in the same way. So I went EDF. I'm going to go SRT. So make sure you label in the same order. And if you see, I had my 1 angle here, my 1 angle here, my 2 angles here, 2 angles here. These match up, and then the 3 lines, so I know that these are congruent, and you label in the same order. Okay, so going back to the third one, this guy up here, the right isosceles. Okay, so remember when you have an isosceles triangle, the angles below it are congruent as well. Okay, so if these 2 angles are equal, then these 2 sides have to be equal. I think that's harder than what you'll see on your tests. This was just kind of a bonus in there to see who's kind of thinking and who's not. So I wouldn't worry about one like this. I would definitely think about stuff like this. If there's a triangle that has, let me just sketch one out for you. If there's a triangle that looks like this, and they tell you that this angle is, let's say 150, all right, then you need to know that this is obtuse. And since there's nothing else around, it would be scalene, because you can't assume that these are equal. So just that kind of stuff. So I didn't put an obtuse one on here. They all end up being acute or whatever, but that's an option as well. All right. Questions so far? Are we good? I'm going to turn the page. Everybody good with naming congruent parts? We're going to continue with naming congruent parts. Okay. So this one up here. If you have this review sheet, why is it isosceles? It's isosceles because isosceles means 2 sides are the same. Scalene means no sides are the same. Isosceles means 2 sides are the same, and equilateral, all sides are the same. Does that answer your question? Geometry is literally the worst math subject ever. Yeah, I'm sure the chair you're sitting in would disagree. Kind of need geometry so that your chair doesn't fall over, but I get it. It's difficult. It's new also. So All right, looking at this. On your test, when you have to identify corresponding parts, you need to make sure on the test it's going to be like a matching thing. So it's going to be angle A matches, and then they'll give you a list, and then you kind of draw lines, match them up. So I want to make sure that you guys are good with this. This is kind of how it's to look on your test. So you need to make sure that you understand which triangle way you do this. And the way I like to make sure I'm doing it the right way is by numbering what's what. So I'm going to label this one triangle ABC. I'm going to call that 1, 2, 3. Right? Not like the Jackson song. And I'm going to make sure that DEF, I label it the same way because I know that it has to be congruent, and I need to make sure I'm matching up the correct angles because I don't know what's equal and what's not, except for by the way they're helping me out here and giving me the order. So DEF, that's 1, 2, and 3. So if you can't see it, or the triangles are smaller, or you're like, I can't visualize which way it goes, number the triangles in the same order and see where you go. So this one's asking the measure, angle A is congruent. Angle A, this is my 1, has to be congruent to angle D because it was the first one in the sequence. Line segment DF. DF, I'm going from 1 to 3. From 1 to 3 is AC. Now, if you are a very good visual person and you don't need to write in the numbers, by all means, if you can see it, you're all good. See it, no problem. For me, sometimes I find that the visual part of geometry gets a little bit overwhelming. All right, I want to label, if I label this triangle FDE, then the congruent triangle has to be triangle CAB. You guys see how everything lines up? The line segment BC, I went from 2 to 3, so I know this guy has to be EF. All right, and then this guy right here, this is your trick question right here, okay? Because it's not asking for congruency, it's asking for equal. And this little M right here, they want the measure of angle A. So how much is angle A? This is the one I'm looking for right here. Okay. So this one requires a little bit of extra work. And I've given you 2 different angles here. So angle E right here, 59 degrees, matches up with angle B right here. You see that? E and B are going to match up. I have this guy right here, so I know how to find this one. Because to go back to Wesley's question, everything needs to equal 180. Everything inside needs to equal 180. When you add up all of these, they need to equal 180. So I'm going to add them together. 59 plus 55. It's going to give me 114. And then I'm going to subtract it from 180 to get this guy right there. So 180, go this way a little bit, minus 114. I see a lot of kids in my class, at least, make mistakes. If they don't, are they not corresponding? This has nothing to do with corresponding angles yet, okay? Corresponding angles have to do with parallel lines and transversals and things like that. So don't even worry about that kind of stuff. All right, like I said, I'm just finding an angle measure in here. I like what you're thinking, like, are they gonna add up to be 180? Okay, you're overthinking it. So we're just working within the triangle. They all need to add up to be 180. Okay, so identifying corresponding parts, that's definitely on your test tomorrow. It's gonna be a matching. Make sure these are your clues right here in the order that the triangle is labeled as to which part goes with what. All right, and like I said, for me, sometimes it's hard to see. Sometimes the triangles aren't drawn to scale. I like to label it. I like to give it a number because that's way easier for me than seeing it. So that's up to you though. All right, finding angle measures. Finding angle measures. All right, let's do this guy first. All the degrees in a triangle, all three angles, this one, and this one, they have to equal 180 degrees. All right, they have to equal 180 degrees. So I have 42, and I know that this guy right here is 90. So I'm going to add them together and subtract them from 180 to get this guy up here. So I have 90 plus 42. It's going to give me 132. I'm going to subtract that from 180. And what I was saying earlier is I see a lot of people make simple math mistakes, like in their subtraction or in their addition, things that are making your life a little bit harder, maybe making it so you miss a couple points on your test. All right, so this guy right here is 46. You can always check your work. This plus this have to equal 180 to be a triangle. All right, B. B is a little trickier. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on B so you guys can see it. I have two different triangles here, but no need to worry. I've got this guy here, which we know is equal to 90. It's going to help us out. I've got 90 and 40. I can definitely find X. So 90, oh, you can't see that. Let me go down here. 90 plus 40, that's 0, gives me 130. I'm going to subtract it from 180, and I'm going to get 50. So I know this guy right here is 50. That guy's 50. Put that down a little bit for you. Okay, he's 50. All right, this is where things get a little complicated. And I put this in here so that you guys can see what we're going to do with this. These are vertical angles. So this guy right here is 40 degrees also. And now I have 95, 40, and this guy right here. So 95 plus 40 is going to get me 135. I'm going to subtract that from 180. And I'm going to get 45. So Z is 45. For these, you're just adding them all up to equal 180. Now, here's where it gets harder. You guys know it always gets a little harder, because we're going to throw in the variable. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start with the variable. Questions like this on your exam are going to be worth 2 or 3 points. How is it 40? It's 40 because they're vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. I'll show you guys stuff like that again when we get to the like the hypotheses and figuring out which postulate and theorem it is. I'll show you guys that again. All right. For these are going to be 2 to 3 point questions depending on what they're asking you to do. This one I asked for an equation, solve for X, and then find all the missing angle measures. So I'm literally adding up all these things and solving and setting them equal to 180, because everything needs to add up to equal 180. And then I'm going to solve my equations. So I'm going to do this on a separate sheet of paper so I have plenty of space to solve. All right. And it is, I will write it all down for you here. It's going to be 67 plus X plus 52 plus 75 equals 180. Okay. That's everything I had in here. All equals 180. That's my equation. So just knowing that it's all going to equal 180, you're going to get 1.4. For these, I need to combine like terms. Some of you guys forget to combine like terms on a given side. So I have 1x and 2x. I'm going to combine those, so I have 2x's. And then I also have 67, 52, 75. All right, so I'm going to add all those up. 67, 52, and 75. 67, 52, 75. And here we go. This one's going to come out to be a little ugly because it's going to be a negative, but it'll work out okay. So 7, that's going to be 14, carry 1. I've got 13, 14, 194. So 2x plus 194 equals 180. I'm going to subtract 194. I'm going to get 2x is equal to negative 14. Divide both sides by 2. X is going to be equal to negative 7. Now, when you're solving for x, it's absolutely okay to get a negative number. What's not okay is if you plug x back in to get a negative number. So, x is equal to negative 7. I'm here. X is equal to negative 7. When I plug it back in to find all the angle measures, this guy's already given, he's 75. I'm going to plug in negative 7 here and negative 7 here. So this is 67 minus 7, so this guy's 60. And this guy right here is negative 7 plus 52, which is, sorry, wrong way, which is the same as saying 52 minus 7, which is going to give me 45. So this guy right here is 45. On your test, it won't ask you to find all of them. It'll just ask you to find one. For the review sheet, I made you do all of it. So do you have to show work? I would always show work on your exams because there's always partial credit. So for me, if I saw you do this equation and you had everything right, and then let's say you solved something wrong here, like you forgot the negative and you made it positive 7, all right? I would take off a point for this, but then if you plugged it back in and still got these answers, I would give you credit for that. So I think that it's always powerful to show your work. I think that it allows your teacher to see where you're making the most amount of mistakes, and it allows for partial credit. Without any work, there's no partial credit. I can't just take an answer. And stuff like this, I don't see how you would be able to do this kind of stuff in your head. Okay, so that's why problems that are this, that are multiple steps, like let's say you got the equation wrong. Well, if you wrote the equation wrong, then this is definitely wrong and these are definitely wrong. But if I can see that you messed it up here and then you did everything else right, well, then I can still give you 2 out of 3 points. So I'm always a big fan of showing work. All right, let's take a look at the next one for finding angle measure. And it's this guy right here. I have 3x, 7x minus 10, and this guy right here, which we already know is 90 degrees. I know that when I add them all up, I have to get 180. So my equation is going to be 90 plus 30 plus 7x minus 10 equals 180. Okay, you get a point just for adding them all up and setting them equal to 180. Now I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to move this to my other paper real quick so you guys can see. So it's 90 plus 30 plus 7x minus 10 equals 180. All right. Again, I'm going to combine like terms. This guy's here by himself. Why 30? Why 30? Why put 30? Sorry, I read it wrong. That's 3x. My bad. That is 3x. Let me fix that. Thank you so much for catching that. That should be 3x. Okay. So I've got 2 right here, like terms. So I've got that becomes a 10x. I've got 90 and negative 10 right there, which is going to be a positive 80. It's just like 90 minus 10, and all of that equals 180 degrees. I'm going to subtract 80, and I will get 10x is equal to 100. Divide both sides by 10. X equals 10. All right, so I found my x up here. Thank you for catching that, by the way. That's not 30, that is 3x. X is equal to 10. I think I got excited because I already knew the answer. Sorry. We're going to plug it back in here. So finding the angle measures, this guy up here is going to be 3 times 10, which is going to make him 30. This guy right here is going to be 7 times 10 minus 10. So that's 70 minus 10. So this guy down here is 60. So those are your angle measures. All right, again, add them all up, set them equal to 180. All right, continuing on. All right, this is called, this part right here, this is called the exterior angle theorem. And what it basically says is that this plus this equal the outside here. So when you're do we have to show that? Show what? Like the work? It depends on what it's asking. Sometimes it'll just ask you to show one angle. Sometimes it'll ask you to find all the angles. It just depends on what it's asking. I just did it because the instructions on this were to show all the angles. All right, exterior angles. So this guy's the exterior guy. He's on the outside. You see he's on the outside of the triangle. Here's my triangle. This guy's stuck outside. So there's a couple ways to go about solving this. I'm going to show you the way that you're going to need to do it when we don't have numbers. So basically it's this plus this equal the guy on the outside. All right, 70 plus 24 is 94. So this guy out here is 94. Right. You could have found this another way. All right, you could have said, here's my triangle. Look at if I just kind of cover that guy up. Here's my triangle. This one's 70, this one's 24. I can figure out what this one is and subtract it from 180. That method is fine when it's all numbers. That method does not work when we switch it up to variables. Okay, so again, let's do this one right here. This one plus this one equal the outside. These two inside equal this guy on the exterior. So it's just 82 plus 42, 124. This guy right here is 124 degrees. Right. This one right here is kind of done backwards. I know that this plus this equals this, which means that this minus this gets me that. All right, one more time. If I were to write this in equation, this is 68 plus x equals 123. 68 plus this equals 123, or 123 minus 68 will get me that one. All right, that, which is going to give me 55. So this guy up here is 55. All right, this plus this will equal that. All right, same deal. If you're having trouble solving equations, then these are not going to be fun for you. Okay, it's rough if you don't know how to solve an equation. It's the same thing. This one plus this one equals that one. This plus this equals that. So your equation looks like this. 7x plus 5, this plus 84 equals 17x minus 1. These two added together equals this guy on the outside. Combine like terms. On this side, it's right there. So I get 7x plus 89 equals 17x minus 1. I'm going to subtract 17x to both sides, and I'm going to get negative 10x plus 89 equals negative 1. I'm going to subtract 89 to both sides. Negative 10x equals negative 90. Divide both sides by a negative 10. X equals positive 9. Okay, and this question only asked me to write the equation and solve for x. So this one right here, you would leave like this. If it asked you to find an angle, you would take that and plug it back in. All right, so these ones are going to ask you to find angles. So these ones are a little bit more in depth. This is kind of more what your test will look like. Look at this guy right here. So write the equation, solve for x, find the measure of angle B, find the measure of angle ACB. Okay? It's going to ask you to find this one and this one. All right, so same idea. This guy plus this guy equal the one on the outside. So write the equation first. 85 plus 5x minus 10 equals 11x plus 3. Put it over this way so you guys can see a little bit. Combine like terms on this side. I've got 85 and negative 10, right, which is 5x plus 75 equals 11x plus 3. I'm going to subtract 11x to both sides. That's going to give me negative 6x plus 75 equals 3. Subtract 75 to both sides. I'm going to move it up here. 6x is equal to, sorry, negative 6x is equal to negative 72. Yeah, slow down. All right, let me back up. These two equal this one. So I set up my equation first. This one plus this one, give me that one. All right. On the left, I combine like terms. I have 5x plus 75. That's 85 minus 10 gets me 75. And that's equal. I just left it the same. I subtracted 11x to both sides. If you wanted to subtract 5, you could have done it that way too. You're going to get the same answer either way. It's just a matter of what works easiest for you. So I subtracted 11x, which made this guy go away. And here I had negative 6x plus 75 equals 3. I then needed to get rid of this guy, so I subtracted 75 to both sides. So that guy goes to 0, and I'm left with negative 6x equals negative 72. When I divide out my negative 6, I get x equals 9. Right? So I found my answer, x equals 9. Then it asked me to find the measure of angle B. So here's angle B. I need to plug that guy back in there. Okay, so to find angle B, I'm going to go 5 times 9 minus 10, which is going to give me 45 minus 10, which equals 35. So angle B is equal to 35. So this whole thing down here, I'll put it in another color, this guy down here equals 35. How did I do C? I'll go back. I'll go back up there. Okay, let me finish this one. This one wants me to do ACB. ACB. So if I look at this angle ACB, here's ACB. I need this angle right here. That's the one I'm looking for next. Okay. All of my angles in a triangle need to add up to be 180. So I know that the total has to be 180. I have 85 and 35 here. So 85 plus 35, that gets me 120. I'm going to subtract it from 180. And I'm going to get 60. So this guy right here is 60 degrees. Okay, so going back to C. Is this the one you wanted me to do? This guy right here? All right. Instead of this question mark, let's just call this guy X. Okay, let's call this guy X. All right. I know that this guy plus this guy equal the outside guy. So let me write my equation. 68 plus X equals 123. Then I can just solve for X. And then X will equal 55. Maybe that way is a little easier for you if you set it as an equation instead of a question mark. Right? If these two equal each other, then this one minus this one get me this. But if this is a better way for you to visualize it, write an equation. Right? Substitute that question mark with a variable. All right. Let's see this guy down on the bottom. I'm going to rewrite it on another sheet of paper because I'm out of space on this guy. So let me rewrite this for you guys. I'll show you guys what it looks like right here. Looks like this. That'd be great if you could see that one too. So let's do it this way. All right. So this is S, R, T. This guy over here is C. And this guy is 105. And it says angle R is equal to 16x plus 2. Angle S is equal to 19x minus 2. Right. So I have my S and my R. I'm going to add these two, set them equal to that. For E, when it says the measure, it's only going to be C because the answer was only 60. For E, when it says the measure of ABC. So you plug this all back in. All right, you want to plug it back in depending on what it asks you to do. All right, so before I get on this one, let me go back to here. Okay. ABC was equal to 60. I'm sorry, ACB was equal to 60. Okay. The answer is only 60 when I plug it back in. And I don't even have to plug it back in because I know what these two are, and I just subtracted it from 180. For these, it's going to ask you more than what your test is going to ask. All right, your test will only ask you to find one extra angle. So it'll be write an equation, solve for x, find one of the angles. I just have you guys doing more for review, so you get into the habit of plugging things back in. With these, again, show your work, because if you mess it up here, everything else is wrong. But if I see that you mess it up here and that you're doing everything else right, I can give you partial credit. So make sure that you show your work on these. Okay, let's go back to this guy right here. This plus this equals that. I have S and R. 16x plus 2 plus 19x minus 2 equals 105. I'm going to combine like terms. I have a 16x and a 19x. That's going to give me 35x. I have a plus 2 and a minus 2. Those are just going to cancel out. That's 2 minus 2, which gives me nothing. So 35x is equal to 105. When I divide both sides by 35, and just so you guys know, you don't need to freak out with the numbers. I see a lot of you guys go for your calculators. Don't go for your calculators. The numbers on the test are not going to be that big. Okay, so when you divide them out, but even if they are, I mean, come on, you guys should be able to do that. X is going to be equal to 3. All right, so this question asks you to solve for X. Write the equation. So there's my equation right there. I solved for X right there. And then it wants me to find the measure of angle R. It wants me to find this guy right here. It gave me here, so I'm just going to plug it back in. So it's going to be 16 times 3 plus 2. All right, 16 times 3 is 48 plus 2. That gives me 50. So the measure of angle R right here is 50. All right, on to what I think is the hardest stuff, where you guys are having the most amount of trouble, and that is in the postulates or theorems. So postulates or theorems. So let's go over what your options can be for postulates or theorems. All right, your options can be SAS, that is side, angle, side. Okay. Your options can be SSS, that is side, side, side. Your options can be angle, side, angle. Your option could be angle, angle, side. And then the other one that we were talking about that works is HL, and that is hypotenuse, leg. Right. What's special about hypotenuse, leg? That guy's special. This guy only works with right angles or right triangles. Okay. Are there going to be review questions? Absolutely, there will be review questions. I will go over some of those to help you guys out. Not a problem. It's going to be on slope, graphing lines. I'll get to that. All right. So these are our choices. When it asks you to write the postulate or the theorem, this is what it wants. It wants SAS, SSS. It wants you to show how these triangles are congruent. Okay. An option for your exam is going to be not enough information. Okay? That's a reality. That is going to be an option for your exam, that there's not enough information to tell if it's congruent or not. So look at it, look it over. If you get that all of them are not enough information, clearly you've done something wrong. But that is going to be an option on your test. All right. I only have 4 on my review sheet. I'll put up some other ones. I think that most of the classes use Mr. Chong's review sheet today. So I'm pretty sure I brought a copy of his. I'll see if I have one around here someplace. I'm pretty sure I do. And then I do have one. And I'll go over his as well. So here are extra ones that we can go over. Okay. Starting back on this guy right here. It's going to ask you to write the postular theorem and then write the congruent statement. The congruent statement is writing it so that we know that you know what order the triangle has to go in. All right. This is going to be a good portion of your test. I think there are six of these. I think there are 6 of these on your test, and each one is going to be worth 2 points. So 1 point for the congruent statement, 1 point for knowing which postulate or theorem it is. Okay, so this guy right here, I have 2 triangles here. There's one, A, B, D. Here's the other one, C, B, D. Okay, I have 2 triangles right there. I know that these 2 angles are congruent. There's a couple of different ways that I can go about this problem. It depends on how you see it, okay? What I see is that they share a line. And if they share a line segment, this guy right here is congruent to themselves. It's reflexive, okay? This guy right here is a 90-degree angle, which means that this guy has to be a 90-degree angle too, because it equals 180. So what I see right here, I see angle, angle, side. Okay? Angle, angle, side. That's what I see. All right. Another thing you could have seen, if these 2 angles are congruent, it means that this side and this side are congruent. It's isosceles. Those sides are congruent. I could have gone angle, angle, side this way. Okay? So either way, I'm seeing angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. All right. This one came up as A, B, shouldn't have been A, B, C. Sorry, that needs to be A, B, D. A, B, D. I need to write the congruency statement in the same order. So if it's A, B, D, then it's congruent to triangle C, B, D. Okay, and they are congruent because of angle, angle, side. All right, let's look at the next one. This guy right here. I've got these 2. I've got 1 pair of sides. I've got another pair of sides. I've got 2 sides. When you see this bow tie kind of shape, it should automatically send up, oh my goodness, I have vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. So I have side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. When you're using side, angle, side, make sure the angle is in the middle of the two sides. Okay? This one is triangle BEA. So it is congruent to triangle CED. Order matters here. Make sure you order it in the correct way. This guy right here, you'll see a lot of shapes like this. You have one side, two sides. This guy shares a side, so he is congruent to himself. He's reflexive. It's the same length for this triangle and the same length for this triangle. He's reflexive. So I have side, side, side. I'm using side, side, side for this guy. And they want me to label it CBA. So CBA. Which way do I need to label it to be congruent? Okay, CBA. Is it going to be CDA or is it going to be ADC? This is where you need to be very careful on which way you write this. Okay, if you don't see the triangles, I would definitely use the numbering system again. So if you don't see which one's which and which sides match up, all right, so CBA, I'm using the one side first. So I'm using like the side with the one hashtag, the one mark. Okay, CBA. All right, so I need to go ADC. ADC. Okay, so just make sure you're lining them up the same way. Okay, this guy right here, again, bow tie shape. It's got to signal vertical angles. All right, this is angle, side, angle. The side has to be in the middle of the two angles. It can't be this guy out here or this guy out here. It has to be right here. So angle, side, angle. So you've got angle, side, angle. All right. And I've got EDC. EDC, that's going to be congruent to triangle ABC. All right. That is it on that review sheet. One of the ones I wanted to show you, it's on this one right here. If you're in my class, you already saw this. It's this guy right here. Okay, the right triangle is where you need to be very careful. This guy right here is reflexive because you see the triangle is shared twice. Or this guy, this line segment is shared by this triangle and this triangle. But what you cannot have is angle side side. And yes, I'm going to write it out. You can't have angle side side. Nobody wants to be that. So anytime you have a right triangle, okay, make sure you check to see if it can be hypotenuse leg. And in this case, it can be because my hypotenuse is congruent and I have a congruent leg. Okay, so this guy right here is HL. This guy right here, let's look at number 9. Let me move this paper out of the way. This guy right here, you have a side, you have an angle. I can say that this guy right here is reflexive, okay? But now I have angle side side. Can't have angle side side. You're here again, all right? The problem with this is that you don't know if this is a right angle. So you can't assume it's hypotenuse leg. One like this would be not enough information. Right? So be very careful. This guy up here, vertical angles, angle, side, angle. Vertical angles, side, angle, side. All right. That is that. So your test tomorrow looks like this. Here's what you're going to need. You are going to have to do triangle classification. Right, there is one problem on that. There's literally one triangle. You need to say, is it obtuse, scalene, isosceles, that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's the first, there's that. There are matching corresponding parts. All right, so that was kind of what we did here. We had triangle ABC. This guy right here, even if I write it like this, DEF, okay? That this one and this one are congruent. That's the corresponding part. There are 4 of these. Okay, there's one of those. There are 6 of the theorem and postulates. So 6 of ones that look like this. There are, I believe, 2 of the find the measure of an angle in a triangle. And I think there are 2 with the external angle. There is review-wise, there is slope. There are equation of lines with parallel, perpendicular, and that kind of stuff. And then I believe, I didn't print out the exam, but I'm pretty sure there is some kind of there's a transformation. So knowing if it's rotation, dilation, translation. But again, these are all the review things, so they are worth the fewest amount of points. The bulk of your exam is right there in theorems and postulates. Okay. Any questions? Anything you want me to go over? Done 51 minutes of math on a Thursday night. Test tomorrow. If you have third period, okay, if you have third period geometry and you want tutoring, I will be, come see me at lunch tomorrow. I will be in room 110. 110 at lunch tomorrow for tutoring, if you want tutoring for period 3. Right? Otherwise, I will see you, most of you, tomorrow. Good luck on your exam and have a good night.